Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our transatlantic conversation. For nearly 3 years, we've enjoyed the privilege of hosting Association Transformation for the international membership community. Over nearly 40 hours and 70 plus episodes, we've hosted more than 100 guests from the UK, the USA, Australia, South Africa, and many points in between. Regular listeners will know that over the years, we've covered a huge variety of topics, from change management, leadership relationships, and 4-day weeks, to financial strategy, income generation, and modern governance practice. And of course, who could possibly forget the unicorns and the puppy dogs episode? We really hope you enjoy every episode, and while we will always make our content freely available, remember, subscribe wherever you get your favorite pods. If you would like to lend us your support, you can do so by subscribing to the pod from as little as $5 a month. Now, hopefully it goes without saying that Elisa and I and the whole Association Transformation production team will appreciate your generosity and your ongoing support. To subscribe, visit patreon.com/Association Transformation and choose the monthly subscription level that suits you best. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Association Transformation. And remember, whatever you're up to today, put your members and your mission first. Enjoy the pod.
Well, hello. It's summer. Andrew, wake up.
No, I'm listening to you. I've got my t-shirt on. It's summer. I'm wearing my one t-shirt to kind of, chill out.
You obviously did not dress up for this podcast, but hey, you're here. We're together. I'm excited.
Do you know what? I didn't, and I'm going to be honest. I totally forgot about it. It pinged up on my diary 10 minutes before, and I'm like,
well, you're right. We've been off. Our cadence has been a little off. I've missed you. We've been doing kind of one-off podcast.
Yeah, we've not.
And that's how we have calendar notifications.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we brought an expert in to get us back on track. Okay, so happy summer. Welcome to the Association Transformation Podcast. I'm Elisa Pratt with Brewer Pratt Solutions. My co-host, gracious, graceful. I don't know. How do you want me to introduce you, Andrew?
I'm just Andrew. Is fine, thanks. Just the usual. Andrew.
Just the usual. T-shirt. Andrew. He showed up.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Well, more importantly, my excitement today is really about our guest and someone who I hope can help us wrap our minds around all that is possible. But we have Salm Rench with us today, and she's with Raza. And I've been reading her articles for months and weeks, and obviously everybody knows Raza. But Erica, thank you for joining us. We do have some hard questions for you today.
Well, I'll do my best. Thank you so much for having me, Elisa and Andrew. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So tell me a little bit about Raza really quick, just so our audience can kind of know your area of expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do at Raza is personalize the email newsletter. We leverage AI in order to send 10,000 different versions of an email newsletter as opposed to a one-size-fits-all to 10,000 people. And we obviously wouldn't be able to do that without the power of AI. And then what's inherent in the AI, which is the automation, which also allows you to save a lot of time along the way in that newsletter process. We were talking about this earlier. Sometimes the newsletter is not like the sexiest task in an organization. and so our automation allows you to really streamline some of the tedious things that go into the newsletter production process, like content curation and metadata reproduction and titles and image resizing. So all of those more tedious newsletter tasks.
Yeah, you've just reminded me of why I hate newsletters.
I love newsletters, by the way. I just want to clarify.
Andrew loves newsletters. Andrew, how many
recently of not loving them, but I do. But that's usually because I've never had to build one myself, which is,
there you go.
But I understand. I've watched colleagues in pain as they've been putting together the monthly newsletter, or more pain when they've been putting together the weekly one.
A lot of daily clients too.
Absolutely.
So
I was going to say, yeah. Now I'm seeing daily newsletters popping up, and I'm like, how are people just dragging themselves to work if they're having to compose that material on such a sort of constant basis. It's like the association version of 24-hour news channels.
Yep. Well said.
So historically, newsletters have been, I don't know, workload heavy, return on investment uncertain, burdensome, right. and they end up just kind of adding to the spam that we send our members. Mm-hmm. I've always tried to avoid newsletters, even in my consultant world, never wanting to have to put it together or deal with it or keep the list clean or manage it. And over the last, I would say 3 to 6 months, I've wondered if this is the time where technology could make it easy, could make it doable. But you said AI and you said automation. And when you use the term AI for newsletters, are you talking about automated intelligence, or is this artificial intelligence? What AI are we talking about here?
So it's a compilation of multiple different types of AI. So we use AI to conceptualize content. So to read it, we use natural language processing to understand what the content's about. And then topically, we can match people with the best content for them. So that's one way. And then the other piece is a recommendation algorithm. And then, of course, because of the day and age that we're in now, we also have a chat GPT integration. So you can fuse pieces of generated content into the newsletter as well. So it's actually 4 or 5 different AI pieces working together.
This sounds very complicated, very very expensive and very complicated.
Don't ask me to ask a question right now, because I am just like, I'm already like, oh my God, you're saying so many complicated things for me. And I'm like, wow, this is intense.
No, but that's a really good point, because it shouldn't be that complicated. Maybe I shouldn't have explained it such as that, because ultimately on the front end to the user, it's a streamlined newsletter platform. And then bringing it beyond just Rasa tools and how, you can go about evaluating what are the best tools for me and to incorporate into my tech stack at my organization. I always tell people, look at how you spend your week, look at how you allocate your hours. What are the 10 hours that you spend that don't bring you joy, that don't allow you to be creative because you're doing tedious things? And those are the best AI tools to go seek out, right? The ones that can kind of intelligently automate away the tedious things. And we do that in newsletter form, but there are tools that do that for social media, for online, for generating online ads, for you name it. There's an AI tool out there for that. There are also so many great AI directories out there these days that kind of point you in the direction of these great tools.
All right, so Andrew, let's put our association hats on and imagine we are a small.
Never take mine off, Lisa. Never take mine off. I'm constantly wearing my association. It's always.
Like, I think it's just to cover the haircut, but.
Thanks.
But thank you. Anyway, so imagine we are a small, medium association. We have 5 to 8 staff. Our data is not in the healthiest of places. I'm assuming there's a huge data component to starting this. And all we know is that we want to modernize how we communicate with our members and make their experience better. How do you begin? Does it truly start with data? I mean, are we months away from even being ready to do some of these cool projects because our data is not ready? How do you start?
I think a lot of the tools out there allow you to start with more of a blank slate. And because data hygiene can be so intimidating, right? And data decay is at an all-time high.
Oh, data decay. I've never heard that before.
It's a great term. I'm loving all of this language, by the way.
The hygiene I've heard of. Data decay, that's cool.
Hygiene, and then data decay, when you collect information on your members when they first become a member, but maybe it's outdated within 2 to 3 years, especially because, people change careers and jobs so quickly these days, much faster than any of our parents did. And because of that, the data becomes outdated, not just email addresses, but all different, job, how they're advancing within their professional career, where they live. So all the demographic stuff that changes really quickly. And really good AI tools can pick up on those changes and adapt to those changes without you as the association having to necessarily enter all of that data and keep it specific, or the AI tools can help you keep that data up to date.
Right. If you want to win your bosses over and try to motivate them to actually invest in this, use data decay. It's not just outdated, it's data decay. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that's okay. That makes me feel better that it doesn't have to be clean. It doesn't have to be perfect. Do we have to have asked our members to grant certain permissions? I mean, we already email them stuff. They already get our newsletters. If they're already getting things from us, they've already given us permission to communicate with them. We don't need anything new to then elevate or evolve what they're receiving.
That's right. Yeah, if they've opted in to receive your emails, that's one step in the right direction. If we're talking about this is not what we do at Rosin, but on-site personalization, that's you accepting the cookies that you do, all the time when you navigate onto a new website. But all of that being said, it does seem like data privacy is moving in the right direction these days. I mean, GDPR, there's a California version of GDPR, and more states now are adapting those laws. So, so all that being said, you do want to be careful and making sure that you do have the right permissions to email people. Presumably when they come on as a member, you can start to email them. But yeah, that is a very important component to consider, especially with the way the world is moving.
I understand. Sorry, I maybe I'm jumping ahead here. I rather than sort of tackling this sequentially as in terms of the process, but the bit that I understand, I totally get. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I understand the principle of the kind of what you described at the head of at the top of the show, which was we're using that combination of automation and so automated intelligence and artificial intelligence in terms of structuring, the whole piece around getting it to look good on the screen, and to work and to function properly. I understand the principles around all of that, and I'm like, well, yeah, cool, that makes perfect sense. I love that, and it makes life easier. I love it. The bit that I always am struggling with, and this isn't just in the context of what we're talking about today, newsletters, but generally, what I'm really struggling with is the content curation, because that has to start somewhere, doesn't it? You have to start with a new germ of an idea or a principle or concept or a debate or an argument or whatever. We have to start with something.
Yeah.
Then am I misunderstanding this? Because once that knowledge piece is out there in the world, and the AI is using that to generate material, effectively using that to generate material for newsletters. When do we ever go back to that kind of first point of principle where it's like we have to generate an original piece of content? Because do you know what I'm saying? Because there has to be some point with
a new idea. What a new idea?
Have a new idea.
What's happening? Absolutely. I mean, there are two answers to the question. So what we do largely is we curate from sources that the associations deem to be trustworthy and authoritative. Right. So we will look to those sources specifically to pull in content. They can search topically, and we can do something like, search using a Google News feed, for example, to bring the relevant content in. But to your point, Andrew, like what are these large language models based on? And as we evolve and there's all this bot generated content out there, are the large language models just learning based off of other robot produced content? And that's going to happen. And I think that's a big danger of, one of the many, concerns and considerations we need to have going into all of this AI generated content. There are tools out there that you can say, I just want you to learn off of my organization's content.
Right.
as opposed to like the World Wide Web or everything that anyone posts on Twitter. Twitter is now much more secure with or much more restrictive with their API. So that's not really an option anymore anyway. But yes, that it's a major concern, and there are lots of companies starting up to address, like, putting some parameters around what bots are learning on.
Yeah, because part of the process must be, I suppose internally, as whoever's leading on the kind of, whoever owns the kind of newsletter, as it were, the comms team, the media team, or whomever kind of leads on that, they must have to have some kind of internal processes or rules that say we can't only be leaning on, on content that is artificially generated. We have to have a principle that says at some point we have to have
right. Is there a rule of thumb? 10% has to be original, or one original per newsletter. What's the rule of thumb balancing curated and aggregated versus original?
All the language, Lisa. This is good. All the words that I'm
just trying to
I can do it AI myself right now, actually, to be honest with you.
I'm the intelligence behind Andrew. I'm translating.
Totally artificial. So, yeah.
No, that's a great question. So our clients oftentimes ask us the same things, how do we balance what we produce internally versus what we curate? And of course, the answer is it depends. Like, you could be the ASAE, the associations now daily, that they send, I think it's probably 80% their own content, sprinkled in with some external recommendations, because they're a content powerhouse. They can produce, between 5 and 10 original pieces of content a day, but not all of our clients are like that. Most people cannot produce between 5 and 10 original pieces of content a day, or at least they couldn't before, the robots are starting to take over. But, and then we have, on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have, clients who don't really have resources at all to produce a ton of content, or that's not a core part of their strategy, and they'd rather just be aggregators and personalize the latest external news for their members. So it really just depends on your strategy. It depends on lots of different factors and what you want to invest in your content production. But I'd say most people, it's a balance. It's probably like if I had to put an average, like a 30 to 40% internal, rest external balance.
Oh, okay. All right. We got a ratio. All right.
Like very average. That's very, very rudimentary.
And I don't want to, I so appreciate your expertise and how you've just dove into the deep end of all of this. I wonder if maybe we're asking the wrong question from the onset. Our newsletters, even just the term, even just the concept seems so archaic. I often develop stakeholder dropped member surveys. And when you ask members how they want to be communicated with, newsletters are usually last.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. We read this marketing membership communications report, and people might say that they don't want newsletters, but time and again, we hear from associations that they find newsletters to be an effective way to actually get data, get answers, get responses. So I don't know. I feel like
so there's still a thing. So newsletters are still a viable, successful, should be part of your menu of communications tools. Newsletters are still a thing.
Are you just kind of, is it more a language thing than anything else, Lisa, when you're talking to, these clients? Newsletter is quite, it is quite an old.
You can phrase it different ways to get different results. When you say email or you say email alert, of course, they're going to say email alert is more important than an email. But, digital magazines, printed magazines, newsletters, text, people are trying to determine what the next way to communicate is. What does the new generation of their membership, how they want to receive their information? And I'm not saying they're dead. I'm just wondering if we're speaking in forward-looking, future-looking terms. Because, as we started this whole thing, nobody likes newsletters. To do them, as staff, they're burdensome. We've never really figured out a way to measure the value.
I think nobody likes doing long, tedious newsletters. People like reading good newsletters, but I also think we have to consider, like, what are the alternatives? So if we think about social media, those worlds have become so increasingly pay to play. And, you know, you can put your blood, sweat, and tears into a social media post, you post it, and you get like a whopping 2 likes on it. And it's just so disheartening.
That's what Andrew's used to.
Yeah, welcome to my world. This is all I ever get. But go on. Continue.
And one is me. The other one's his mom. Yeah, it's.
Love it. And then the other alternative is, okay, so, you know, on site, so ads, you know, you're advertising all over the web, but that world is going to change pretty profoundly here with tracking regulations changing and the way that, you know, people are able to be cookied as they search the web. I'm not an expert on that, but I know it's going to change pretty dramatically here very soon. So the email, the dinosaur that it is, you know, it probably isn't going away anytime soon. But, you know, I'm always interested in what are the other new and innovative ways to communicate, certainly.
Actually, I think
we use like the word to your point, Elisa, we're using the word newsletter, but like what we're really talking about is like email newsletters.
Yeah, this is just a personalized email.
Right. But there's newsletters. Yeah, like there's all that stuff too.
Also,
yeah, the content's just structured that way. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
Is the content even news? I mean, actually, a lot of it's interesting because you mentioned ASA's associations now. That's it, isn't it? That's the email that comes out every day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's not really a lot of news in there. There's stuff that's interesting that, you know, there's really helpful sort of guidance. There's really helpful, you know, links to some other stuff that will help you do your job, perhaps to help you do your job better. But there's not really nothing, to be fair, AI aside, in associations world, nothing really is moving that quickly that we needed a daily, a weekly, or arguably even a monthly news letter. So it's not like it's not necessarily that we're getting these we're receiving these emails. I mean, another really good one is Sidecar. I get those every day. They send, and I love what it is, but it's not news. It's like helpful information. But that's not the same thing at all. But basically, when I hear newsletter, I'm thinking, right, what's the gossip that's going on in the membership world? You know,
we want the TMZ. We want the TMZ of associations.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, I'm like,
Andrew creates. You can make that one. There's like,
let's do that. Let's do an AMZ. Let's do AMZ, and it'll be all the gossip from within the nonprofit association space. I think this is a thing. This could be huge.
We're onto something.
This could be huge.
Well,
but no, to your point, like our healthcare, medical, scientific space clients, especially in the times of COVID for our scientific clients, that information I'd say was much more like time sensitive news. Yeah.
Oh man, so still a lot to think about. I have one last question.
Sorry, I was going to say it's a lot to think about, but we got to think about it quickly.
Well, right, we're already late.
Well, yeah, we're already, you know, we're coming to it, and I'm feeling out of my depth in this. I'm feeling out of my depth in a lot of this conversation, because I'm like, right, okay, there's you know, distinct language here that I've not heard in this context before. So I'm trying to catch up. I'm learning a lot in the 20-25 minutes we've been chatting. I'm learning a lot, but I'm thinking I'm already behind the curve on this. And, you know, we know that the industry is contemplative when it comes to making investments, and yet really it can't afford to be. But then I say that almost about everything we ever talk about, they can't afford to be as reflective as it likes to be. But
sure.
You know, but I think what's for me the kind of what's going to tip us over the edge as in terms of getting people to really understand and realize that, because I mean that they have to invest in this, because I mean I was just doing
data decay. We already said data decay.
Yeah, but you can. I get that, but quite frankly, data decay. How many times do you go to a commercial exhibition in the association world and there's a billion CRM providers exhibiting. There should be absolutely no excuse for data decay shouldn't exist in our industry, because there's so many CRM providers who are providing us with the most amazing data management tools ever. None of whom I think are now going to sponsor this podcast. But I think what is it that's going to tip us over the edge? And for me, and you mentioned it a wee while earlier when we were talking about, well, how do you measure the value? How do you measure the impact of your? I mean, this is true of everything we do, but in communications terms, how do we measure the impact of our reach and the influence of our AI generated material? And actually, have you? And what I was wondering is, with your clients, are you seeing a demonstrable sort of upturn in terms of how people are engaging? Does the data point to people are engaging more with it? You're getting more sort of click-throughs or engagement with the material? Is that something you see in?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way a lot of our clients measure it is because of the increased engagement, they're able to give that to their sales teams also, who sell ads into the newsletter. And they talk about increased ad dollars because they're either able to send more frequently with less time or sell the AI spots for a higher premium. But what I would say, just in general, like taking it a step further, is when you do embark to set out on an AI journey and take on an AI project that probably shouldn't be like a full systems overhaul. Maybe it is something like it's a high visibility project, but it doesn't like tear up your whole tech stack. I'd say you're going to want to go down one of two paths in terms of presenting the value to the leaders or the other stakeholders, and that would be you're either showing them a major return on investment in terms of hours saved and where you can reallocate those hours now. And then the second piece being, how does it directly reduce member churn, result in new members, or maybe it's a brand new revenue stream. We've had folks say, like, let's engage the non-members in a brand new way. And maybe that's a new revenue stream for our sales team to go out to market with. And then one other thing, Andrew, is that I feel like if you want to stay up to date, a great resource is Marketing AI Institute. They cover this stuff, way better than I ever could.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for that. I'll take a look at that, and we'll put it in the notes for the pod, so that everyone can take a look. But actually, you were talking about, and this is a really technical question, actually, that I need to know the answer. You were talking about sort of customizing content. Does that include, so you can fit? Is my understanding correct that you could basically send, if you really wanted to, right, and you had enough content to do it, you had 10,000 individuals receiving your messaging, you could arguably have 10,000 variations of the same material. Is that, I understand, a bit in crude terms.
Mm-hmm.
Is that also true then of advertising? So when we're selling advertising space to sponsors, can we then begin to tailor our advertising so that, let's say, for example, we know that 5,000 of our 10,000 are event managers, and so we can send out the same material, the same content, but on the one version for the events people, they can get the content with an advert for, one of the bureaus, whatever the event places or whatever. And then maybe there's, 3,000 of our 10 are financial people. And so we could have like an accountant or something advertising or, whatever, financial services. Is that possible? Is that the type of thing when, so we can actually double, triple, quadruple up on our sales income, our advertising income?
Yeah, it's a trade-off. So there are two ways that we can do that. We can do that through some just like hard siloed segmentation, if you know how to parse out your audience. We can also talk to ad servers that do that like really personalize the ads based on other information that the association might have about their members. So do it a little bit more automatically. But to your point, Andrew, like, okay, so we can like amp up the ad sales. There probably will be a return on that, but a lot of the people that you sell to are going to say, well, I want to be in every single newsletter. I don't want my
That's
ad
fine.
to.
They can pay twice as much. That's totally fine. They can pay full rates.
Sure. Yeah. 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 You're definitely thinking like an ad salesperson.
All right. So yes, Andrew's trying to make money here. I'm still trying to, consume all that we've discussed today. And from what I've heard, if I'm that small to medium association with data, with a mission, I know my mission. I know that I want to deliver greater value to my members. And I now know that there are tools out there to make this easier, to get me quicker to market, if you will. It sounds like you really need to start with what you have, what your strength, your superpower as an organization. Is it content? Are we experts in our field? Do we have an audience that opens things and reads and is hungry? Do we have a community of knowledge already ready to be leveraged? Or do we have that data and that tech culture? Let's start with our strengths. We all can come into this world feeling very small, feeling very out of our depth, and overwhelmed by the technologies of today and tomorrow. Yeah. And I would just love organizations to start with their strength, figure out what you have to work with, decide what that member experience is that you're looking to achieve. Start with the end in mind. Yeah. Are you trying to increase membership? Are you trying to increase the engagement of the members you already have? Are you trying to build revenue? Build your path around not only the strength you have to start with, but where you're trying to get to. Don't just do this stuff to do this stuff.
Right. Have your desired outcome in mind, and then watch it closely. Whatever goal you're trying to achieve, put it up on a billboard or like a whiteboard in the middle of your office. If you go into an office these days, watch the results, measure them, and make it super visible so that you can, see the impact of the work.
But surely, so I was going to say, but surely you should have a piece of AI then that responds to that.
Yeah, an automatic chart that updates itself. So last question specific to this, and we try to ask all of our tech and communications experts and association transformation friends this question. What is the new acceptable open rate for an email newsletter?
Oh gosh, with all the Apple.
What should you be shooting for? I mean, it's your membership. You have permission to email them. It's now curated, and hopefully it's a subject line that piques their interest. What's the new industry acceptable for open rate?
I think you can reasonably, this is going to be a wide range. 35 to 60%.
Whoa.
60? Well, because of the traffic, you get all of the open events that aren't necessarily real. So it inflates it, pretty considerably.
Okay. All right. So this should have, by using automation, by using artificial intelligence, by using the customizations and personalizations, there should be a dramatic shift from the open rates and the click-throughs that you're used to in the old-fashioned newsletter environment. Mm-hmm. Okay, we should have started with this question, Andrew. This changes my whole.
Well, because it's like how your social media feeds personalize, the content that they serve up to you, or your Netflix, channel or your Netflix portal personalizes the shows that they serve up. We're doing that in an email, so it's literally one of them.
All right. So two stat takeaways, everyone, all 32 listeners, mostly from Belgium. New stats: 30 to 40% original content in your newsletters, and you should be shooting for 35 to 60% open rate. If you're not there, you probably need to talk to Erica. You probably need to figure out what your plan for the future is. And I'm excited to see where all of this goes. We probably should have you back often, since this stuff is changing weekly.
Next week, probably.
Next week, it'll be a whole new thing. It'll be a whole new thing.
It'll be new answers next week.
This is great. Are we going to get to see Raza at the ASAE annual meeting?
Of course. I think.
Awesome.
Oh gosh, here, put our number out. I think we're booth 515.
Oh, look at you. Okay,
that's the number. I'll let you know for the show notes if I got that incorrect. But yeah, we'll be there in full force. Very excited about the annual show. Will you folks be there as well?
I will be representing Association Transformation. Andrew is going to be out t-shirt shopping.
I'll be. I think I'm in Minnesota that week actually. So
okay. So yeah, I'll hold down the fort in Atlanta. All right. So until we meet,
Elisa, and we have lots of fun swag.
Oh, tchotchkes, love it. So until we meet again, let's get working on our association TMZ. I think this is a real thing.
We have a new project.
Trademark, copyright, all the things. We just said it. We said it first. Association transformation.
I actually don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to be honest.
What?
I just
you don't know what TMZ is?
TMZ is. I don't know what you're talking about. Or I laughed because I didn't want to be excluded.
Celebrity gossip.
Yeah, you guys have your dailies, right? That do all the celebrity gossip. Yeah. We have TMZ, and it's a daily TV show and an app where you get all the celebrity dirt.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, no, that all makes so much more sense to me now. Right. Okay.
Oh my. Okay. I don't like your tone. This is over.
All right. Okay.
He's playing naive, so he can.
All right, Erica and I know what's happening here. You just buckle up, ride along. We're going there. So Erica, thank you so much for joining us, for scratching the surface of all of this intimidating and overwhelming language. We so appreciate you making it easy, making it accessible and not so scary for us. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you in Atlanta. And until our next episode, we thank you for joining Association Transformation. We encourage you to make us one of your favorite podcasts wherever you get your downloads. And until next time, put your members and your mission first.